Howdy everyone, Justin Pulliam here. Today I want to share with you a story out of Lyon Valley. This is from the San Antonio Express News. It talks about how 3 San Antonio police officers who were fired by the San Antonio Police Department were later hired in Lyon Valley. Here's why. This is by Emily Eaton. I shared information with her about all the auditor arrests way back in the day. You know, I would love to see more establishment news coverage of those stories. But nevertheless, this is a good story to go through. I think you'll be shocked. Well, if you know Joe Salvaggio, you may not be shocked. If you're new here and you're not familiar with Lyon Valley and Joe Salvaggio, it's a story I've been covering for over 2 years now. In the description below, and maybe up there if I can figure it out, there's a link to a playlist that shows all my coverage of Lyon Valley. Corruption, dysfunction, tyranny. It's just a mess in Lyon Valley. But we're doing everything we can to expose that, and many people are working hard to change it. There's our favorite police chief, Joe Salvaggio, as I think she touches on in this article. He too was once a San Antonio police officer until he himself was fired. Oh, here we go, right away. The caption says, Lyon Valley Police Chief Joe Salvaggio once worked for the SAPD. He has hired several officers as reserves after they were fired by San Antonio Police Chief William McManus. One officer who appealed his firing won his job back and has since returned to SAPD. It talks about police reforms in general, and so I'm only going to read the highlights of it. The link to the full article is below in the video description. I encourage you to check it out. It's a good read. But hey, the paper actually published it. I haven't seen this published anywhere, but the paper published it, and that's notable. All right, Emily Eaton of the SA Express News writes, it didn't take long for fired San Antonio police detective Daniel Pugh, accused of punching his ex-girlfriend in the face after an argument outside his home, to get a new job in law enforcement. 8 months after he was arrested by the Bexar County Sheriff's deputies, the criminal case was later dropped at the woman's request. Pugh was hired as a reserve officer by the Lyon Valley Police Department. There we have, it says, San Antonio Police Detective Daniel Pugh was arrested on January 7th, 2019, on suspicion of punching an ex-girlfriend. The case was later dropped at the request of the woman. He was fired by SAPD, but was hired as a reserve officer at Lyon Valley Police Department. So since he was hired as a Lyon Valley Reserve Police Officer, he can keep his peace officer license. Without an affiliation with a police department, Pugh could have his license revoked after 2 years under state law. Pugh, 36, also can work off-duty jobs in traffic control for private companies while he appeals his firing by the San Antonio Police Department, where he worked for 11 years. So I'm going to add here, there's, it's a pretty good story overall. I will say some of the stuff is maybe simplified or left out. So what a reserve officer is, it's someone who is not full-time active duty. I don't know if they can be paid. I don't know whether or not they can get paid. Normally they're not. They have to put in a certain number of hours each, I think every month or over so much time, they have to actually put in hours of service to the entity where they're a reserve officer at. Later on in the article, it's going to talk about how they're not interacting with citizens, etc. But then you have to ask, well, what are they doing for their reserve hours, or are they not doing it at all, which is, a violation? Are they lying on reports? What's going on? Lots of questions there. So you have to keep, so an officer, there's 2 things. You have your peace officer license in Texas, and you have your commission. License just means you went to school, you have the certification, you're licensed with the state. Now the commission is what actually gives you the authority to act as a peace officer, and you have to be hired. You have to have a law enforcement agency to sponsor your commission. So a reserve officer has their commission, thus they can work security type jobs without a security license. That's kind of the loophole is that if I wanted to go work private security, I have to go get certified. But the Blue Lyin big police lobby made it to where police officers can go work those jobs without the applicable license. They just say, well, I'm a commissioned police officer. So he can work off-duty security jobs, or the traffic jobs like at parking garages or road construction, and those, sometimes you wonder if they're just sleeping in their car all night with their lights on. But hey, it's an easy paycheck, and it helps these officers out who are fired from their active duty job. Back to the article. Pugh is one of those 3 SAPD officers hired as reserves by the Lyon Valley Police Chief after being accused of serious wrongdoings, records obtained by the San Antonio Express News show. While reserve officers don't work full-time or receive a regular paycheck, they can be called in to perform the same duties as police officers, such as patrolling or working during large events or emergencies. The officer's affiliation with Lyon Valley highlights an issue lawmakers and criminal justice reformers have underscored for years, that police officers can be fired for or accused of serious wrongdoing by one agency and still maintain a career in law enforcement. That's because the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, the state agency charged with licensing and training police, can't revoke an officer's license short of 2 dishonorable discharges, a criminal conviction, or a probationary sentence. Now, I wonder about that too, because I know you can get written reprimands for not, by TCOL, the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, for not doing certain things like training, and I think if it's you get 3 reprimands, you're done too. So I think this paragraph there might be more to losing your license, but basically these, we'll say fired cops, we'll say the fired cops, and in many of the stories that I cover on my channels, this sort of arrangement happens, and so they get hired as a reserve officer somewhere else, oftentimes at a smaller or, more iffy law enforcement agency. They get all those police authorities. They have the same authority as before. The someone accused of serious wrongdoing, they don't lose any of their police authority, and they can go out and, in public, hey, I'm a police officer, or work extra jobs, or whatever it is that they're doing. They stay a full police officer as far as their authority and privilege in the Blue Lyin and all of that. The article continues, that's true even in the most egregious cases. For example, the commission had no authority to revoke Matthew Luckhurst's peace officer license, even after the San Antonio police chief fired him twice for providing a feces sandwich to a homeless man and taking part in a feces-related prank in the women's restroom at SAPD downtown bike patrol station. Nor could the commission, which recently came under scrutiny for its failure to properly collect racial profiling data on traffic stops, investigate misconduct allegations against the 2 other officers hired in Lyon Valley, as neither was charged with a crime. They are Officer Elizabeth Montoya, who was fired from SAPD for striking a suspect who was 6 months pregnant, and Officer Tim Garcia, a Hispanic officer fired for using a derogatory racial term to address a black suspect. Garcia later got his job back at SAPD. Montoya is appealing her firing. It says in the caption here, this is Garcia. He was accused of using that derogatory word. He appealed and was hired as a reserve officer by Lyon Valley Police Chief Joe Salvaggio. Garcia won his job back through arbitration and is working for SAPD again. Texas does not align with most other states that have a decertification process for police officers, said Roger Goldman, who is a professor at the St. Louis University School of Law, and he studied police licensing for more than 30 years. He continued, around 2/3 of the states permit decertification, even if the officer hasn't been convicted of anything. The action itself, the commission of the conduct, rather than the conviction for the conduct, would have led to an administrative hearing. Researchers say gaps in many state laws, including those in Texas, allow officers to bounce from job to job, even after they've been accused of serious wrongdoing. This is sometimes referred to as a gypsy cop, and you pull up their work history and they've worked here and there, and maybe for months at a time, a year or 2 at a time, they keep going from department to department. Instead of officers being fired or dishonorably discharged, they quit, they resign, they go get a job somewhere else. Or when they're done for good, they retire, like we see with many Houston police officers, and they retire prior to being criminally charged, and so they get all those normal honorable retirement privileges and perks. But when they go from department to department, and instead of me, hey, no, we're not going to allow you to just bury your misconduct and move on somewhere else and keep doing the same thing till they, you see the writing on the wall over there. But that's exactly what happens. And it's a huge problem. The data is there for us to track these officers down, but it's so hard with all the open records games to do this. It's something we could really work on if we wanted to see police reform in Texas. We need to be pulling all of the officer work histories, their personnel files, and putting together the picture of the misconduct that they try so hard to bury to protect the blue line. All right, skipping down in the article, they say some researchers and criminal justice reformers have called for further change, including giving state licensing boards authority to investigate police misconduct even when there isn't a criminal case or conviction. But some police unions are concerned about changes in licensing laws could interfere with an officer's due process rights. For example, if TCOIL had wider authority to investigate alleged misconduct, a police officer could end up facing 3 separate investigations: an internal department one, a criminal one, and an administrative one by TCOIL. An officer could be found innocent by a jury, and then TCOIL would be able to take another bite of the apple, said Charlie Wilkerson, the executive director of the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas, the largest police officers union in Texas. No person would want that, he said. It's essentially double jeopardy. I'm going to stop there again. No, it's not. This is such ridiculous Blue Lyin. Oh, they're always Blue Lyin. This is incredibly common for any profession, such as doctors or attorneys, judges, who are licensed and regulated by the state. Whether or not they've committed a crime, there's administrative hearings all the time. All the time. But apparently, police should be exempt for that. No, there's absolutely situations where someone doesn't need to be in prison, but they should lose their certification to exert these powers by the state. Using the state's authority. Maybe they don't need to be in jail, but they don't need to be on the street as a police officer either. Absolutely, this is what should happen. But let me tell you why they may not want it, besides just more accountability, which, as we see every day, the Blue Line doesn't want. The police department, is the police department really going to investigate themselves? No, we've seen time after time they don't. It's fake. It's all fake even when they purport to. Okay, criminal charges. How are criminal charges? Criminal charges are done at the county level. Oh, wait, so the local government club is going to hold the government club accountable? No, that's not going to happen either. But at least if you had a state agency, maybe, just maybe, and we could manage getting good people in that state agency, we could put the enforcement arm far enough away from the club where it was actually independent instead of the government club protecting their own. So that's why so often you don't see these things happen at the local level, and even when it's really bad, they're allowed to retire or resign. The article continues. Leon Valley Police Chief Joe Salvaggio, in an interview with the Express News, defended his decision to hire Pugh, Garcia, and Montoya. All 3 appealed their firings through a lengthy arbitration process allowed under the city's collective bargaining agreement with the police union. Garcia won his appeal in November and is back on patrol at SAPD. Pugh's and Montoya's appeals are pending. Salvaggio said he conducted a background check on 3 officers as required by state law. He also reviewed evidence, including body-worn camera footage and police reports provided by attorneys defending the officers. He said he believes the officers were wrongfully terminated based on the evidence he reviewed. They are certified Texas police officers that have nothing in their file or history that would preclude them from being hired by me or anyone else in the state of Texas. Wow. 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 That is straight from the Blue Line tyrant. Nothing in their file or history. Oh my goodness. So we're going to skip over this. This talks about wider reform. Again, the link is below in the description. You should check it out. It's pretty good. This is unrelated to Leon Valley. This is a professor out of UT Tyler, University of Texas Tyler. He says the hiring process is really rigorous in most organizations. It's very hard to get hired as a police officer. Now that's just a joke. I've seen it time and time again where the good old boys can easily get hired. I've even seen it where officers are hired over the phone. They don't even complete the background check. They say, hey, if something comes up in your background check, we reserve the right to fire you. You can fail your psychological exam, still get hired. Okay, now to the main Lyin Valley section. Lyin Valley hires. Salvaggio, the Lyin Valley police chief, was once a San Antonio police officer. Then, police chief Pulliam McManus accused him of cheating on a promotional exam and fired him. Wow, he actually put on his uniform for this interview. That's kind of surprising. Alright, so it says Salvaggio denied the allegation, appealed, and won his job back through arbitration. In the past decade, 10 officers, including Salvaggio, have done the same. City records show this would be with San Antonio. Salvaggio was hired as Lyin Valley police chief in 2016 and oversees 61 full-time and reserve officers. Salvaggio said he obtained all the information he needed on the officers he hired from SAPD by conducting a criminal background check and requesting their personnel files as required by law. We looked at all the evidence, Salvaggio said. I brought in 3 or 4 people to review it with me. I had them leave and I brought in 3 or 4 other people. If any of them had said no, I wouldn't have hired these officers. Moreover, the officers had few, if any, disciplinary issues in the past, Salvaggio said. In Garcia's case, Salvaggio said, body cam footage showed a drawn-out exchange between the officer and the black suspect. In the footage, the suspect often referred to himself by the racial slur, Salvaggio said. Finally, in a moment of frustration, Garcia used the word too. In Garcia's case, he repeatedly used the N-word. Here, the caption is that San Antonio Police Chief Pulliam McManus has complained that state law and the police union contract forces him to keep bad officers on the force who he has tried to fire. It was straight up stupid, Salvaggio said, but it wasn't racist. It shouldn't cost him his job, and I guarantee he'll never make that mistake again. Pugh, the officer accused of domestic violence, went to Salvaggio seeking a job immediately after he was fired from SAPD, the police chief said. What does that tell y'all that the guy immediately went to Salvaggio? Salvaggio told Pugh's attorney he would not consider hiring him unless the pending criminal case was dropped. It was only at that point that Pugh was hired in Lyin Valley, records show. I reviewed a waiver signed by the girl and the video of her on the day of the alleged assault, saying it didn't happen, Salvaggio said. She told the police that she went to his house drunk and ran into the door. She told my investigator the same thing. They have no witnesses, and they have her on video from day one saying nothing happened, Salvaggio added. When he goes into arbitration with no witnesses and a girl that says she was the aggressor, what do you think is going to happen? In Montoya's case, Salvaggio said body cam footage showed that Montoya used a variety of techniques to get the suspect to comply. First, verbal commands and warnings, then what is called open hand control. It was only after the suspect assaulted Montoya that the officer punched the suspect, Salvaggio said. That type of use of force is allowed under most departments' guidelines. According to the San Antonio Express News and apparently, I guess, some police reports, here's what Montoya did. The suspect kicked her twice with a bare foot, and then Montoya retaliated by striking the woman right on her chest and 7 times on her head, the record showed. The officer also pulled the suspect's hair as she put her into the patrol car. Later, she forced her out of the vehicle and placed her on the ground for 26 minutes in the rain. The document said that the administration alleges that Officer Montoya did not give the suspect humane treatment when she left her on the ground in the rain. She was cited for muting her body-worn camera when she should not have. And on an unrelated call, she told a man, "Pick up all of your effing trash. I don't want to effing hear it. I'll effing tase you." They say that her actions, and she was suspended 10 days for that. It seems to me that there's just a little bit more to the story than what Chief Salvaggio said. And what do you think? Say, even if the use of force allows eight strikes and retaliation, do you think those policies are good? Although as a reserve officer in Lyin Valley, Montoya and Pugh are less likely to interact with the public, Salvaggio said their experience benefits the department. Okay, experience navigating the Blue Line to make sure you always keep your certification, to coach other officers in case something happens and it's unable to be covered up in Lyin Valley. They get caught in serious civil rights allegations. What experience? How are they helping? And what exactly are these officers doing to maintain their hours as reserve officers? Lots of questions here. Salvaggio said they come in with a certain expertise that we can call upon if we need it. That doesn't mean I'm going to put them in a patrol car and have them working with the public for their safety more than the citizens' safety. Of course, Salvaggio is not concerned about our safety. So far, he has not had to make that call. Still, he's glad he made the hires. We're going to do our due diligence before we decide to take someone on, Salvaggio said. It really does depend on the circumstances and the evidence that we look at it. We take it very seriously. Alright, be sure to leave a comment below the video letting us know what you think about this. To me, it seems like Lyin Valley, the government, rather than serving to facilitate the basic needs and living situations of the residents of Lyin Valley and provide those essential services, it seems to me that the city government apparatus exists for the pleasure of the city manager and administrators like Joe Salvaggio to bring on as reserve officers, anyone who gets fired from SAPD. Just come on, we'll provide a Blue Lyin I got it. The Lyin Valley is the Blue Lyin Sanctuary City. Have an issue? Need to be reserve status? Go call up Joe Salvaggio. How does bringing those people on the Lyin Valley payroll help the city with their reputation of their police department and government that is already quite questionable? With civil liability, with people who have been proven to be risky already. With public safety, with officers who are undergoing serious allegations. With financial constraints. It's a small city. Why are they even wasting their time on such matters? So I'm just at a loss to how any of this benefits the residents in Lyin Valley. I think it probably hurts them. So I'm at a loss to how this helps any of the residents of Lyin Valley. If you know, leave a comment. Try to fill in the gap and help me out there. Alright, if you're watching this today, it was published on Monday, July 6th. Tomorrow, on Tuesday, July the 7th, 6 p.m. sharp, you're not going to want to miss it. Go and subscribe, enable all notifications on not just this channel, Justin Pulliam, but Justin Pulliam Live. In Justin Pulliam Live, we're going to carry this Lyin Valley City Council meeting. It's going to open up right out of the gate with a discussion regarding police policies. It's probably going to be a good one. You're probably not going to want to miss it. We're going to have lots of fun. I'm sure there will be some points of order. We'll see if maybe tomorrow is the day where they respect my rights and read my public comments. Who knows? You never know. It could be my lucky day. So be sure to check out Justin Pulliam Live if you want to follow all of this Lyin Valley, the drama. It's serious abuse, serious tyranny. But oh my gosh, it can be entertaining as heck. So check that out. Thank you everyone for watching my video. I appreciate all of the support. Just remember, when you are out in public, don't be afraid to record any situation. Any situation, whether it's with the government or not. But if you are in a transaction with the government, especially the police, always film. You just never know anymore. The person who is interacting with you could very well be a fired cop who is still acting as a police officer because he has been protected by a sanctuary city. Always film the police. I'll see you next time.